This happened a week ago. I'm 35 and work as a freelance photographer. I don't often make my way to the coast, but I rented a beach house for some time off. I thought it would help freshen my portfolio. The first night was quiet. I set up my camera gear, then went to bed ready for inspiration at sunrise. Around midnight, I woke up with a start. Waves crashed against the shore. The sound was loud enough to jolt me awake. I pulled back the curtains and my eyes adjusted to the darkness. Then, I saw a flickering light far down the beach. It was too distant to be anything familiar. Maybe kids were playing, I thought. Curiosity pulled at me, so I grabbed my jacket and headed out. When I walked onto the deck, the cool, salty air hit my face. The ocean roared below, but the flickering light was gone. I stepped off the deck onto the soft sand, squinting into the distance, but there was nothing. The rhythmic sound of the surf filled my ears. I felt uneasy but brushed it aside. I headed back to bed, convinced it was nothing. The next morning I went for a walk on the beach. The sun was just rising, casting an eerie light across the shore. That's when I noticed footprints. They didn't look like shoes. Small and almost childlike, they led from the water straight to my beach house. I looked around, expecting to see someone, but it was empty. Just me and the whispers of the wind. As night fell, an unsettling feeling crept into my mind. I tried to dismiss it, focusing on my photography, but the feeling didn't leave me. That night, I woke up again. This time, I heard sobbing. It was soft at first, like a distant echo through the walls. I listened hard. The cries were faint but insistent. A chill ran down my spine. I wanted to check it out, but something held me back. The next morning, the footprints were still there. My heart raced. Hadn't I imagined them? I stepped outside, glancing around, but nothing was there. The sobbing echoed in my mind, making me doubt my sanity. Days passed like this. I tried convincing myself it was all in my head. The light, a trick of the moon. The footprints, just my imagination. I tried to ignore the feeling that I was never truly alone. Then came my final night. I sat up in bed, heart pounding. I opened the door and stepped outside. The cold air wrapped around me. That was when I felt it. The sense that someone was there. I turned around, scanning the area, and saw only darkness. The waves crashed against the shore, but something felt wrong. I didn't see anyone, yet I had the strong feeling that something or someone stood right behind me. I couldn't shake it. I stood there frozen, staring into the darkness. The feeling was so strong, but I couldn't understand what it meant. What haunted that beach house? I didn't want to find out. I stood on the deck, heart racing, feeling the chill of the night air. Silence swirled around me, and the waves crashed like a restless heartbeat. I took a deep breath and tried to shake the unease, but it clung to me like the salt in the air. I decided to go back inside, but just as I turned to leave, I heard a sharp snap behind me. I froze again, my body tense. Had I imagined it? It sounded like a twig breaking. It pierced the quiet night, harsh and unsettling. I forced myself to turn around, scanning the darkness again. Nothing. Just the vast, empty beach stretching out beneath the moonlight. I took a cautious step back into the house, the sudden urge to lock the door gnawing at me. Once inside, I shut the door firmly and leaned against it, trying to calm my racing heart. I needed to focus. I pulled out my camera, setting up my tripod in the living room. I looked out at the darkened beach. Perhaps a photo would help me ground myself in reality. I needed to remember why I was here. As I clicked the shutter, a loud crash echoed outside. I jumped, instinctively backing away from the door. My hands trembled on the camera. Just the waves. I tried to reassure myself, but the sound had integrity, like something heavy had fallen or been thrown. Curiosity clawed at me, but a more potent instinct told me to stay put. I walked towards the window, peering into the night. Suddenly, a figure darted by, quick and shadowy. My breath caught in my throat, and I squinted, trying to make sense of what I just saw. My heart raced as I grabbed my camera, hoping to capture whatever it was, but the figure had vanished into the blackness like smoke. Minutes later, I heard faint giggles. They were distant, almost like echoes of childhood laughter carried on the wind. Panic surged through me. Children? This close to the ocean at this hour? I pulled back from the window, my mind spinning. I thought about the footprints, the cries, the flickering light. Could this all be connected? I paced the room, my mind racing. What was happening? Why did I feel compelled to investigate? I grabbed my coat again and walked to the door. Maybe if I got closer I could understand. Before I opened it, I paused. No, I didn't want to be alone out there. Every logical part of me screamed to stay inside, yet curiosity won. I swung the door open and ventured back onto the deck. The chill hit me full force. I scanned the shoreline anew, the waves crashing in synchrony with the heartbeat in my chest. That's when I saw it. A small figure stood near the water's edge, partially illuminated by the moonlight. A child, perhaps? My heart sank deeper into my stomach as the figure turned slightly, revealing a pale, emotionless face. My instincts kicked in. "Hey!" I called out, voice trembling. "Are you okay?" The figure didn't move, didn't respond. I squinted, trying to see better, but the moment stretched on, fraught with tension. Then the child turned, and I gasped. Pale fingers pointed directly at me. Before I could comprehend it, the darkness behind them seemed to swirl, and everything went black. The sound of the ocean drowned out all reason. I stumbled back, forcing myself into motion with every ounce of will I had left. I needed to get inside. I needed to escape whatever had answered my call. I slammed the door behind me, heart pounding. My breath came in quick bursts, and I braced myself against the cool wood, trying to process what had just happened. What was that figure? That pale, haunting face stayed imprinted in my mind. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I turned to look out the window again, but all I could see was the ocean, rough and unforgiving, the moonlight casting silver shadows on the waves. The giggles had stopped, replaced by silence so thick it felt like a living thing pressing against my ears. My camera hung limply from my neck, forgotten in my distress. Then I heard something. Thuds, soft but unmistakable, coming from the direction of the living room. My pulse quickened as I pushed away from the door. A creeping dread settled in my stomach. What if I wasn't alone? Every sensible part of me screamed to check the locks, call for help, do anything but investigate. But another part of me, the part that had always craved adventure, urged me forward. I inched toward the source of the noise, my heart racing with every step. Each thud echoed like a countdown to something terrible. I peeked around the corner into the living room. There it was. My camera had fallen off the tripod, once still, now laying on the floor like a discarded object from another world. Okay, just the wind, I whispered to myself, my voice barely audible. As I bent to pick it up, a soft, tinkling laugh floated through the room. It wasn't the faint giggle from outside. This was nearer, more distinct, like a playful taunt. I stood frozen, my mind racing. I knew I had heard that voice. I straightened up slowly, scanning the room for any sign of the source. The shadows shifted ominously, stretching and curling in the corners. Suddenly, the front door creaked open again. A soft, deliberate push. I stepped back, my instincts screaming at me to run. Instead, I peered from behind the hallway. The door swung wider, revealing a tall shadow silhouetted against the faint light of the moon. It looked like a person, only elongated and oddly distorted. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaky. "Is someone there?" No response, just the rustle of fabric and an unsettling silence. I felt my hands grow cold as adrenaline surged through my veins. That feeling, the overwhelming sense of being watched, returned, and I was suddenly certain I wasn't alone anymore. A pair of glimmering eyes appeared in the doorway, reflecting the light like two pools of oil. I gasped, stumbling back, and in that moment, everything froze. As quickly as those eyes had appeared, they vanished. There was no time to think. I darted toward the kitchen, hoping to find something, anything to defend myself. My mind raced. I thought of the child at the water's edge, and the laughter that now echoed in my head. I was trapped in their game. Just as I reached for the knife block, the laughter came again, clearer now, wrapping around me, and my knees buckled. I had to escape this place. Whatever was happening was no longer a mystery. It had become a reality I was desperate to flee from. I turned back toward the living room, ready to bolt for the back door. Then I heard it. A whisper, chilling and close. "Stay with us." I froze, dread washing over me. I wasn't alone, and something wanted me to stay. My heart hammered in my chest as fear coursed through me. I stood there, caught in that moment between flight and fight. The whisper echoed in my ears, sending chills down my spine. Something was here with me, and it had no intention of letting me leave. I slowly turned toward the doorway, taking a deep breath to steady myself. "Who are you?" I managed to call out, even as I felt the weight of unseen eyes upon me, measuring me, judging me. Silence reigned, thick and suffocating. The last remnants of the laughter faded away, and I considered leaving, but fear had a strange hold on me. I glanced around the kitchen, looking for weaponry or a way out. My fingers brushed against a sharp knife, but in that instant, all thoughts of self-defense evaporated. I needed clarity, I needed answers. Just as I took the knife from the block, the lights flickered and died. Darkness engulfed the room like a thick, heavy fog. Panic churned in my gut as I fumbled for my phone, the only source of light in the chaos. After a few swipes, the screen glowed to life, illuminating my trembling hands. Every shadow felt alive, writhing as I moved. I edged toward the living room again, the source of the whisper still lingering in my mind. The only way to find peace was to confront whatever it was that haunted this house. Then everything shifted. A soft giggling echoed from the corner of the room, followed by the unmistakable sound of feet pattering on the hardwood floor. My breath caught, and every instinct screamed to escape. But I steeled myself and took a step forward, focusing the light of my phone toward the sound. In the far corner, I saw it. A small figure, barely 3 feet tall, standing with its back to me. It wore a pale dress that billowed around tiny ankles, as if caught in a non-existent breeze. I blinked, thinking my mind was playing tricks, but the figure remained. It turned slowly, revealing a face filled with mischief and something darker. "Come play with us," it beckoned, tilting its head in a way that made my skin crawl. I opened my mouth to respond, but words failed me. The child was wrong. Something about its 2 bright eyes and the way its smile lingered sent waves of dread through me. Each second stretched as I stood there, gripped by fear. Then, just like that, it vanished, replaced by a surge of cold air that swept through the room. I could feel a presence lingering just out of sight. Looking around, my instincts screamed to get out, but I was rooted to the ground, suspended by disbelief and horror. I stumbled back, careening into the kitchen counter. There, on the floor, I spotted something glimmering in the light of my phone, the fallen camera lens. I picked it up, the object suddenly feeling heavy and cumbersome in my hands. I should have captured this moment, but every part of me urged against it. As I turned to leave, I caught sight of movement in the hallway. My heart dropped. The tall shadow had reappeared, leaning against the wall. I couldn't breathe. I realized that my impulses had led me to witness something far more complicated than I ever imagined, and just as I was about to make a run for it, I heard the whisper again, deeper and more insistent. "Stay with us. Forever." A cold wave crashed over me as the figure extended a hand toward me, beckoning me closer. In that moment of desperation, I knew the truth. It was time to confront the darkness. But I wasn't sure if I had the strength to face whatever waited beyond that threshold. I stood frozen, my mind racing as the shadowy figure loomed closer. It was as if time had stopped, trapping me in a moment filled with anxiety and uncertainty. I couldn't tell if it was a figment of my imagination or something real and terrifying. As the dark presence moved to invite me into its world, adrenaline surged through me, grabbing hold of my instincts. I couldn't just stand there. With a jolt, I took a step back, bumping into the table behind me. My breath quickened, and my heart thudded in my ears. The whisper wrapped around me again, and I felt a chill creep up my spine. "Stay." It drew out, lingering like a tempting promise too dark to accept. But there was another impulse. A fire ignited deep within me. I was done being afraid. Whatever this entity was, I needed to confront it. I directed my phone's light back toward the figure, which was now only a silhouette against the darkness. "What do you want?" I shouted, forcing the words out past the lump forming in my throat. The figure hesitated, then stepped forward. I caught a flicker of movement from the corner of my eye. There it was again, the child from before. "Come play!" it coaxed, swinging its arms excitedly. "Get back!" I barked, my voice shaking. This wasn't a game. It felt like I was spiraling into something sinister. Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from the back of the house, jolting me out of my confrontation. I whipped around, shining my phone's light toward the noise hard in my throat. The dread in my stomach turned to panic. Someone, or something, was in the house with me. The soft laughter transformed into chaotic clamoring, and I could hear footsteps sprinting across the room. In my mind, images flickered of past visitors, people who had come and gone, unaware of the strange play at hand. I could see it now. This place was not just haunted, it was alive with an ancient energy, one that wouldn't let me go. I gripped my phone tighter, the light flickering as if hesitating to shine. The presence grew heavier, more urgent, and for a moment, I could feel all those watching me. The children, the whisper, the shadow. They all wanted me to stay, but they weren't just inviting me to play. There was something deeper, something that felt like a trap. "I have to leave!" I yelled, my voice cracking, echoing through the vast emptiness of the house. I stumbled toward the front door, scrambling to get out, but it felt miles away. Desperation clawed at my insides. Then, just as it felt like I'd broken free of fear, the door slammed shut. The sound rattled through me, reverberating like a deafening drum. I whipped around, my heart thudding in my ears. The shadow knew I was trying to escape. "It's too late," it whispered again, more malevolent this time. Every instinct screamed for me to run, but I couldn't move. My heart raced as I tried the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. In that instant, something flickered in my mind, a memory, or perhaps a warning. I had to find out what was really happening here. I turned back to face the shadowy figure, determined to demand answers, even if it meant confronting something terrifying. I couldn't let fear win. But as I took a breath, ready to speak, everything went dark. The darkness felt suffocating, an inky shroud wrapping around me. My mind raced, trying to piece together the events leading to this moment. I reached out, hoping to find solid ground, but all I felt was emptiness. My breath hitched as I fought against the panic creeping in. "Hello?" I called, my voice barely a whisper. It echoed, swallowed by the vast nothingness. Moments stretched like hours. Just when I thought I might suffocate from the void, I noticed a dim light flickering somewhere in the distance. It pulsed like a heartbeat, drawing me closer. Cautiously, I moved forward, the shadow looming behind me. As I got nearer to the light, familiar echoes of laughter drifted through the air. The sound was disjointed, warping and weaving around me, sending shivers down my spine. Was it the children again? Were they behind this, playing tricks on me from the darkness? I gathered my courage and continued toward the light. Each step made me acutely aware of my fluttering heartbeat. The soft glow intensified, revealing the outline of what looked like an old-fashioned lantern hanging from a thick, gnarled tree branch. It swung slightly, casting eerie shadows against the walls of the house. Suddenly, I heard a soft giggle and the lantern flickered again. In an instant, the whispers returned, echoing all around me. "Come back," they chimed, sweet and beckoning. My gut twisted. I had to resist that pull. I was not going back. As I reached the lantern, a vision struck me. I saw flashes of the child, their face twisted in sorrow instead of joy. I felt my heart drop. "You're not here to play," I mumbled, my voice shaking as I realized the truth. They had all succumbed to the house's hold. Was I going to join them? "Stop!" I shouted. "I won't become one of you!" But in that moment, the shadows along the walls gathered, swirling like a storm. Panic began to grip me again, but something clicked in my mind. I had to fight back. I turned my phone's light toward the interior of the house, using its beam like a weapon against the encroaching dark. "You won't take me," I declared again, more forcefully this time. The shadows recoiled, momentarily pulling back from the light. The air felt charged, heavy with a different kind of energy, one that urged me to turn around before I made a mistake. Yet, in that moment of clarity, something in the corners of my vision shifted. "Help us!" a voice cried out, sharp and desperate, cutting through the haze. I turned, but no one was there. The lantern trembled, and suddenly the ground beneath my feet began to shake. I stumbled, fear surging as the walls warped, bending like a carnival funhouse. Just as quickly as it started, everything stilled. The shadows flattened against the walls, leaving me gasping for breath, confusion clouding my thoughts. That was when I saw it. Green eyes watching me from the corner, wide and pleading. I stood there frozen, realizing this encounter was far from over. I had to uncover the truth. But could I trust the light? The house was calling, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it demanded its next offering. I took a shaky step back, my heart pounding in my chest. Those green eyes, so full of longing, held my gaze. I wondered who, or what, was watching me from the shadows. Instincts screamed at me to retreat, to escape this feeling of being hunted. The light from my phone flickered, threatening to go out, and I quickly angled it to keep the darkness at bay. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. I needed answers, but unease settled in my stomach like a stone. What had I stumbled into? Then the ground trembled again, but this time it felt different. A low rumble, like distant thunder, built up beneath me. I steadied myself against the lantern, the light's glow casting frantic shadows across the warped walls. The air turned electric, buzzing with anticipation and dread. Suddenly something exploded from the corner of my vision. A figure darted across the far wall, quick and nimble. I directed the light toward it, but the beam only illuminated the peeling wallpaper, letting my imagination fill in the gaps. I felt the hairs on my neck stand on end. "Who's there?" I called out, my voice shaky. Silence. A tense, waiting silence. Then, faint echoes began to resonate through the space like whispers of long-forgotten secrets. They surrounded me, swooping in closer, pulling me in with their insistent tugging. I shivered. I glanced at the lantern again. The light pulsed wildly now, and the shadows danced almost eagerly. My breath quickened as I considered the possibility that I might not be alone. Perhaps I never had been. The laughter returned, this time more sinister, laced with something dark. It felt wrong. It felt like a warning. Could the shadows be trying to tell me something? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. In the flickering light, I saw movement again, this time more than just a shape. A child stood there, just at the edge of the glow, a small figure wrapped in tattered clothing. "Help us," the child whispered, eyes wide and innocent. I took a step forward, torn between fear and the instinct to save. "What do you mean?" I called out, desperate for clarity. "You have to find us," the child urged, their voice echoing oddly, tinged with desperation. "Before the night gets hungry." That didn't sound right. Night hungry? I had no clue what they meant. My mind raced. "Who are you? Where are the others?" The figure hesitated, glancing over their shoulder. Shadows crept closer, eager to engulf them again. "They're waiting," was all they said before darting back into the darkness, leaving a cold shiver racing down my spine. The whispers amplified, swirling around me as the ground began to pulse beneath my feet once more, pounding. It felt like a heartbeat, or a warning. "No! Wait!" I shouted into the void, but my voice was swallowed again. I had to decide quickly. Follow the child, or try to escape this place? As I stood frozen, the shadows lunged forward, whispering promises I couldn't understand. I raised my phone, determined to step into the darkness, but just then, a brutal cold wave washed over me. And then, everything went quiet. The light flickered once, twice, and went out. I stood in darkness, my heart racing, the sudden quiet swallowing me whole. Fear crept in, crawling up my spine, and I knew I had to act. I felt along the wall, the rough surface of the peeling paint grounding me. There had to be a way out, a path back to where I came from. I took a breath, mentally urging myself to stay calm. If I didn't move, I would be lost to whatever shadows surrounded me. I flicked the power button on my phone, praying for just a spark of light. But nothing happened. Great, I muttered under my breath, brushing my fingers along the wall until I found a door frame. With a gentle push, I nudged it open, the creak of the hinges reverberating through the silence. Inside was a narrow hallway, dank and suffocating. I stepped through, still holding my breath, forcing myself to listen. The whispers resumed, echoing around me, clearer this time. Help us. Help us. My heart sank. This wasn't just about a child lost in the dark. There were more. I fumbled for something to defend myself with, wishing I had thought to bring a flashlight or anything to illuminate the dread-filled air. I pushed ahead, adrenaline keeping me alert. At the end of the hallway, I spotted a faint light seeping through a door slightly ajar. Maybe the child had gone through there. I took cautious steps, almost tiptoeing, ready to flee if needed. As I reached for the handle, a sudden noise made me freeze. A soft, dragging sound like something moving just on the other side of the door. I hesitated. It was either confront whatever lay beyond or turn back into the shadows. With a steadying breath, I turned the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit room cluttered with old furniture and dust-covered boxes. The light came from a cracked window, illuminating motes of dust dancing in the air. That's when I saw it. A shape slumped on the floor. I couldn't see clearly, but it looked small, maybe child-sized. My pulse quickened as I stepped further inside, my instincts screaming at me to stay away. "Is someone there?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The figure didn't move, but the air felt charged, as if whatever spiritual ties lingered in this place were tethered to that child. My heart hammered, waiting for a response, unsure if I wanted one at all. Then, in the low glow, I saw it, a hand, small and skeletal, rising slowly to point toward a corner of the room. "You must find what's lost." The voice was thin, almost a breath. "What do you mean?" I asked, fear gripping my words. What was lost? And just as suddenly the dragging sound returned, louder now, filling the space around me. Panic surged and I turned, ready to bolt, but something grabbed my ankle. I stumbled and fell, heart racing as I looked back. There they were, the shadows moving closer, forming dark shapes that whispered my name. I couldn't breathe. Then a harsh clatter echoed from outside the room, breaking the spell of unseen hands. The door slammed shut behind me, sealing my fate. I was not alone anymore. The moment stretched, and I could feel the weight of their hungry gazes, feeling like they were ripping the air from my lungs. I thought of the child, of their plea. Now, reaching out for help felt like a distant scream swallowed by shadows. The whispers intensified with urgency. I was about to discover what it meant to be a part of this darkness, whether I wanted it or not. I pressed myself against the wall, clenching my fists in frustration and fear. The shadows didn't seem to have a clear form, but I could feel them inching closer, enveloping me. With my heart pounding in my ears, I strained to recall what the skeletal hand had pointed at. The corner of the room. I blinked through the dimness, squinting at the shadows that bled into everything else. I had to move, to push through the fear. With a fierce shove, I broke away from the wall and rushed toward the corner. "Please," I called out, my voice shaky. "What do you need from me?" The whispers swirled, drowning my question. The dragging sound changed, sharper now, like nails scraping against wood. It sent chills racing up my spine, but I couldn't let the darkness win. I reached the corner, breathless, and knelt down. In the scattered debris I saw something glinting, a piece of metal half buried in the dust. I dug it out, shaking off the dirt. It was a small locket, cold and heavy in my palm. "Find what's lost." The words echoed in my head. Was this it? Was this what the child needed? I opened the locket, revealing a tiny faded photo of a girl. Her face was sweet, and I felt an ache in my chest. Who was she? Suddenly the room chilled, as if an icy breath of wind swept through. The shadows clutched at my ankles, and the room twisted into a vortex of darkness. I clenched the locket tighter, the cold metal cutting into my skin. "Help us." The voice was louder now, desperate. My heart raced as I struggled against the shadows, willing myself to stay grounded. "Show me," I shouted into the darkness, demanding a response. Instead, those restless shadows lunged at me with more force, pulling me backward, the locket slipping from my grip and clattering against the floor. I fought to hold my ground, but they were relentless, whispering promises of despair. I could see the outlines of faces starting to form, their mouths moving, but the words didn't reach me. My breath came quick and shallow, panic boiling in my gut. Just as I thought the shadows would consume me completely, a low rumble broke the silence. The walls trembled. I caught a glimpse of light flooding through the cracks in the doorway. It felt alive, pushing back against the darkness, and panic shifted suddenly to hope. And then, I saw movement. A second shape appeared in the doorway, a figure illuminated by the light behind them. "Is anyone in there?" The voice was strong and clear, cutting through the whispers. It did something the dark couldn't. It drew me. "Help!" I yelled, my voice trembling between fear and relief. The figure moved closer, extending a hand toward me, and the shadows flinched. But as I reached back, ready to escape this nightmare, I saw the child's face from the locket reflected in the figure's eyes. The connection hit me like a punch to the gut. "What have you done?" I gasped. The locket lay forgotten as I fought my way toward the light. The last thing I saw before a flood of brightness surrounded me was the shadows retreating, shrieking in rage. I was on the verge of understanding a truth that could shatter everything. In that split second, everything changed, plunging me into an entirely different kind of terror. Because I was not just searching for a child lost in the dark. I was stumbling into something far more dangerous. I stumbled out of the darkness and into the blinding fluorescence of the moonlit house. My heart raced as relief mixed with confusion, making it hard to breathe. I was free, but what about the shadows? I turned back, half expecting them to come crashing through the door, but the hallway remained silent, void of the whispers that had haunted me. "Is anyone in there?" The voice called again, familiar yet distant. I blinked away the remnants of panic and tried to focus on the figure slowly stepping into the room. It was a man. Light streaming behind him illuminated his features, a contrast to the dark turmoil I had just escaped. "Help!" I croaked, my voice raspy from the tension that had gripped me for what felt like hours. I think I was trapped. There were children, and shadows." "Children?" he asked, brow furrowed with concern. He approached carefully, as though I might shatter. "What do you mean?" I heard something strange coming from the back, like... A noise reverberated through the house, a low growl this time, like a beast stirring awake. My heart dropped as I realized the darkness wasn't done with me. My eyes darted around looking for an escape, but the shadowy corners seemed to inch closer, hungry for the warmth of daylight. "No time to explain," I said, anxiety flooding my voice. "We have to go, now!" I grabbed his arm, urgency pulling me toward the door, hoping he would understand the gravity of what we faced. Just as we turned to leave, a chorus of giggles bounced around the space, echoing off the walls, followed by that same haunting whisper. "Stay. With us." I froze, gripping the doorknob tightly. "They're still here. We can't let them—" Before I could finish, the door slammed shut on its own, rattling under the illusion of force. I turned to the man, my panic rising. "We have to break a window, anything!" I shouted. "We can't stay here." But he didn't seem alarmed. He stood there, an odd calm enveloping him, as though he'd experienced this before. "Wait," he said softly, gazing around the room. "I'm not here to fight them." "How can you say that?" I pressed, fear igniting my words. "They want to keep us. What if one of them is... one of those kids?" He didn't answer. Instead, he took a step toward the whispering shadows, as if something in him recognized them. "Listen. This place isn't a prison. It's a gateway. The children are tied to something here." He hesitated, the shadows swirling like sentient smoke around him. I could see now how they craved attention, their whispers so enticing. "What do you mean?" "The locket," he said carefully, pointing toward the floor where I had dropped the small metal object. "They're guardians, lost, just like us. But I think they want to be found. They need to be. Not waiting for my response, he bent down and picked it up, the flickering light dancing in the metal surface as if it were breathing. The air changed around us. It thickened with energy, creating a pulsating atmosphere. They're waiting for recognition. They didn't choose this fate. He turned back to me, eyes filled with something more than just sympathy, an understanding of an ancient weight. "What about escape?" I choked out, still grasping to my instinct to run. "What do you mean to do?" "We'll be trapped." "I'm going to—" he started, but the shadows surged forward, engulfing him. Frantic, I reached out, my hand brushing against the darkness, feeling something cold and tethered deeper inside. But then something shifted. The shadows withdrew slightly and the whispers changed again, the childlike laughter intertwining with a low hum. "Find us. Help us." The figure was gone, pulled beneath the inky cloud of movement, leaving me in a swirl of confusion. I was alone, but I could still hear them, faint echoes mingling with the sounds of the waves crashing outside. In that moment I realized there was no escape without understanding. I cast my gaze back towards the locket, now reflecting the dim light. "They want to be recognized," I murmured, sealing the chilling weight of understanding. But would uttering that truth be enough to release me from their grip? As I took a deep breath, I returned my focus to the shadows coiling around me. "You're not lost. You need peace," I called out, my voice resonating with newfound conviction. "I can help you. I will find you." There was a shift in the air, a moment of stillness. The laughter faded, replaced by silence. I felt the shadows recede slightly as if considering my offer. Perhaps in recognizing their pain, I could find a way to break their hold. But slowly, I sensed the looming presence building behind me once more. The figure returned, now transparent and shimmering, an amalgamation of all the shadows I had seen. It was a visage neither wholly wicked, nor entirely benevolent. "Help us!" The voice chimed again, insistent, echoing across the room. I stood there, heart pounding, knowing what I needed to do. Perhaps this journey had always been about seeking understanding, about bridging a world I hadn't known existed. Yet, the deeper truth lingered. Could reconciling with the past illuminate the path back to safety? Questions swirled in the air, unresolved, but their echoes joined mine, hauntingly clear. The shadows thirsted for something I still didn't understand, and as I stood between two worlds, one of light and another shadowed by memories, I could feel my own purpose teetering on the edge of choice. Tension hung thick in the air as I embraced the uncertainty. Something told me I was far from the climax, much closer to the abyss, but perhaps in that darkness, I might finally find the light.